On the 7th of July, Manchester United's players are back at Carrington for the first day of pre-season testing. We'll see Cunha, Diego Leon, and here's hoping Mbeumo at Carrington for the first time. But if you ask me, United are in a position right now where we need to set an example with Garnacho and Sancho. Let me explain. Really is kind of mad that within a week we're going to be seeing players back at Carrington. 12 days after that, we play Leeds in our first pre-season game. Football is nearly back. And change is still needed, lots of it at United. We know that. We've already got a couple of one signing in, hopefully more. Lots of players need to go. I need to speak about Garnacho and Sancho in this one. I'm not including Rashford in this conversation. I'll explain why later in this video. But let me just explain what I mean when I'm speaking about this example that needs to be made. Because the players are back at Carrington for the first time in 7 days. All right? You'll remember the photos of Amorim meeting the lads for the first time when he came back in November. Picture there with Lenny, with Cobby, with Mason. It was his first time meeting the squad. Now, if you were to ask me what the priorities are this summer, it's kind of hard to, genuinely kind of hard to choose. But if I was to say from a Ruben Amorim perspective, what the most important thing for him is that dressing room. Not literally that dressing room, but having people inside it who he wants there and who want to be there. And that is exactly why I think an example has to be made about Garnacho and Sancho. I want to say a big thank you to Surfshark for sponsoring this video. We've had a partnership with them for a while and I believe in the product. And look, if you're going out on holiday and you're enjoying yourself in the summer, be nice. Anyway, use Surfshark. I guarantee you, right, we've got the pre-season tour coming up in USA. I guarantee you some of the United players are going to be using this, watching Netflix UK whilst they're out there. Let me explain some of the benefits of using a VPN like Surfshark for you, because it's not only massively important to encrypt your data, but you can change your location from the UK to over 3,200 servers that work in 100 countries. You can access and unblock content apps that otherwise wouldn't work. And on top of that, you can encrypt your data. VPN encrypts that so you can use free public Wi-Fi. It masks your IP so your location isn't linked to your identity. Clean Web also blocks ads. And Surfshark doesn't monitor, track, or store what you do online. Now, to get the offer with United People's TV, use the code UPTV, surfshark.com/UPTV. You get 4 months extra free. So give it a go if you haven't already used a VPN, because in the world these days, hey, I don't need to speak about hackers. All right, you already know that I got sucker punched with that one. Protect yourself where you can, and that's where Surfshark steps in. Because with these two lads, right, I'll speak about Sancho first, right? We know full well that he doesn't want to be at Manchester United. He was loaned out to Chelsea last season. Is he going to start? I don't need to tell you the ins and outs of him just being an arsehole and rejecting all the money everywhere. No, I don't need to. I just need to speak about what we've got coming up next. Sancho's due back at Carrington in a week, and I want him to be nowhere near Carrington. I do not want him to set foot in Carrington. Can we stop him from doing that? That's the first thing I want to ask. Now, of course, with Sancho, you've got precedent. Well, not about him not being allowed in Carrington, but you remember what happened with Ten Hag, fell out with Ten Hag. He was banned from training in the first team dressing room, or banned from the canteen, I think. And United at that point felt that they had the legal requirements to do this because, of course, the players are protected by the union, by human rights, etc., etc. I don't know whether United have the actual ability to ban Sancho from Carrington. I mean, it's their private training ground, so they can stop that. But does that infringe on anything else? I don't quite know. All right. And if there's anybody who works in that industry, I don't know, who understands that a little bit more, maybe leave a comment on this video. I don't think it's as extreme as the fallout between Aubameyang and Arteta. But you know what happened there? I think as Aubameyang returned late, it was COVID. He got properly lambasted by Arteta as captain. It all got a bit ugly. It turned very, very ugly. And then he was loaned out to Barcelona. It's not going to be that ugly with Sancho, but he's made it clear what his priorities are, and he has absolutely no desire to ever commit anything to Manchester United that's required to succeed at the club. He's proven on more than one occasion, and with more than one manager now at United, that he's not the professional that he needs to be. And I don't want that being anywhere near Carrington. I don't want it to... You have to... This is what I mean about the dressing room being the most important thing for Amram. If you have an ability to stop bad apples being in there, then you have to stop that. And that's where we're going to have to set the examples. And I'm going to go back to the second example and speak about Garnacho. Amram fell out with Garnacho for disciplinary reasons. He wasn't seeing what he wanted to see as a manager with a player he's training. That's why he was dropped from the City squad. Garnacho responded. Came back into the fold. Good. He was dropped for the Europa League final and then decided to say what he said. I'm Amram, I'm done with you after that. And Garnacho with this post here, look, you might say it's nothing, but Garnacho is very acutely aware of the power of social media and what can be said and what can be done and the impact that it has. He knew what he was doing with this photo. As his brother knows what he's doing the whole time. Neither of these two players now want to be at Manchester United. So I, as a fan, don't want either of those two players to be there on the first day of pre-season training. But I'm not sure exactly what United are able to do. The compromise, of course, is probably subsidising both of their exits. And I would... And this is the thing, right? I don't care about I care about the finances of my football club, but I care about the unity of the dressing room more so. And if you talk about all the reset and the rebuild and the culture and this and that, blah, blah, blah. United's dressing room used to be a locked door, man. Not literally. But anything that happened on the outside, David Beckham's the best example of this. After 98 World Cup, he came back. Fergie protected him. What happened that year? We won the treble. Beckham really could have been and should have been the Ballon d'Or winner that season. That's how good he was, but because everything was shut off and the whole team in the dressing room was like an absolute collective. Now, I don't actually think I would include Rashford inside this in terms of an example being made of him. I think Rashford would probably come back to Carrington, probably train fine, and then be sold. But maybe a lot of you probably would include him in that. I just don't know what ability football clubs actually have of stopping players from training or visiting the training ground if disciplinary situations are going on. Obviously, United, with the Sancho situation, stopped him from training with the first team. But can we actually stop Garnacho and Sancho from coming through the gates at Carrington? Is that a bit of an extreme example? Or do you think, oh, hold on, Sam, that would give way too much power negotiations to it? And this is what this is what people are going to come at me with. Power negotiations about transfer fees and all this and all that. And I'm saying, look, I understand what you mean, but this is the priority for me. So anything else you talk about compromises here on price, oh, this might cause problems here. Fine, we'll deal with those problems. Because the one thing that I don't think that should be compromised is the solidity of the dressing room. It's got to be this, not a safe zone for Amram, but it's got to be a place where he can go in there and go, trust, 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 unit. It's like the Roman, I don't know why I always end up going to that analogy, like the Roman tortoise that you move along. As soon as you got one person that's dropped their shield, bang, comes through, the whole thing falls apart. That's why I would like an example to be made of both of them. I just don't know exactly how far United are able to go. And whether like unions and agents will kick back against it. You can let me know what you think in the comments. Some of you might think this is a bit extreme, but that dressing room has got to be watertight this season because it never has been post-Fergie. And it's always been a problem.